I'm Mike Harber, your host for Crash Talk, and tonight we are doing a continuation of the interview that started last week. If you missed out, you might want to go back and listen to last week's show. My guest is, again, it's a continuation of last week, Paul Vaillant, a Seattle personal injury attorney that has provided us a lot of good content that's going to be information that we'll be sharing with you over several weeks. But tonight, it'll be the continuation of Paul's, quote, top 10 meritless excuses for delaying, denying, and discounting auto property damage claims. I was thinking about this as we were getting ready to put this together for tonight, and I think maybe we could say, or how to save money for an insurance company. I mean, really, that's what it's all about. So with that, my disclaimer, and it is an exception tonight because Paul is an attorney, and I suppose the information he's giving can be legal advice because he's licensed with the bar here in the state of Washington. So, but the disclaimer, I'm not an attorney, neither I or any of my employees for Harber Appraisal are providing any legal advice. If you need that, seek it from a practicing attorney in your local area. And again, there are many attorneys that we work with that are certainly qualified to assist you. And Paul is one. And he is very good with just providing information to people and trying to be a help. So with that, let's get back to Paul Vaillant and the top 10 meritless excuses for delaying, denying, and discounting auto property damage claims.
Okay. So speaking of bad repairs, if you have a problem with your repair, you have to take it back to the shop that did the work.
Yeah. You know, what's really aggravating about that, for me, is that as I interview the potential client, it's like, well, why did you go to that shop? Well, that's who they recommended it, and they told me they would guarantee the work.
Yeah.
Well, now when you have a problem, and well, where's my guarantee? Oh, well, you have to go back to that shop. Well, if they put it out on the road with all kinds of remaining damage and substandard work and fraud, I have to go back there?
Yeah. Well, and if they take the car back to that original shop, what's cheaper? Fixing the problem or covering it up? It's a warranty repair, right? They're not getting paid for it.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what's the outcome of taking it back to the original shop going to be? Good?
Right.
Really?
Yeah, no. It's going to be a better cover-up.
Okay, how about this one? First inspection, cosmetic damage, go to an insurance company's drive-in. Well, here's a check for the damage we can see. No, you don't actually have to get the car fixed if you don't want to. How many people take that check and it's a 6-year-old Camry with a scratch on it, and they're like, whatever, I'd love $900 for groceries or rent.
Right.
And who knows what damage is under there? How much money does the insurance company save writing that check at that initial inspection and then saying, it's your money, do with it what you want?
You know, I believe it was Progressive really got in trouble for that because they were going to the accident scenes and they were writing checks. And again, people that are really hurting financially, and you're looking at that check and you're looking at the dent and you're thinking, well, I can drive it like that.
Yeah.
And I had heard, and this isn't verified, but I had heard that there was approaching almost 40% of the people don't fix cars.
I suspect it's pretty common for older vehicles. Cosmetic damage might already have some unrepaired prior damage. People are just using these cars to get from point A to point B. Not a big incentive to get them repaired. Could be really dangerous structural damage. You can't tell.
My dad, you would think, would know better. But years ago, he had a Cadillac and he stopped and the person behind him didn't. And they got out and they looked at it. And my dad said, oh, it's okay. It was dented, right?
Yeah.
Big chrome bumper, a cracked taillight. And he said, that's okay. I mean, that's kind of how my dad was. He said, that's okay. It was like $2,200 worth of damage.
Yeah.
And it's just, Dad, what are you doing? But yeah.
Okay. So total loss claim. How much money does an insurance company save when they say, here's your total loss offer, and now that we've made your total loss this offer, we're going to cut off your rental in 3 days.
Right.
Oh, and we're not going to send you the undisputed portion of the claim, and we know our offer is bad, and we know that even if you accepted it, the check wouldn't get to you and clear the bank in 3 days, but we're cutting your rental off anyway.
Yeah. Now, how can they get away with that?
Because every time an insurance company breaks a rule, it's only important if there's an or else that matters.
How do you mean?
So there's rules, and if you break them, there's consequences.
Right.
If the consequences are essentially nil, the rule is just on paper, right? So what? Someone's gonna fight over, take an insurance company to court over 4 or 5 days of a rental car?
Yeah.
No, but they're gonna save 4 or 5 days of a rental car times 10,000 claims a month times 50, what have you.
Yeah.
Save a ton of money. And that's a phenomenal leverage to get people to just take a bad total loss offer instead of fighting it. They have no choice.
Right.
They don't think that they can get the check for the amount of the offer and then keep fighting for what's fair later on down the road. They think, oh, I better accept this in full right now so I can go shop for a car.
Again, it's the pressure of everything else. And that is one of the things that we're doing more and more, the total loss claims, and get people the money right now that's on the table. They're not going to give you any more. You might argue with them and scream and yell. That's not going to do you any good. You need to get the money that's on the table. And then that's the type of thing that we do. We've had some of them a year.
Yeah, and being able to get that undisputed, we agree we owe at least this much, relieves so much pressure in a total loss claim.
Right.
And gives the vehicle owner so much freedom to fight for the margin that's fair. And it's easier to do that with your own insurance company than the other drivers, because they don't technically have to pay you anything. So there's no consequence if they say screw off.
Right.
Okay, so sticking on the topic of rental, we only owe for basic transportation.
Yes.
But I had a Suburban. Well, you get a Chevy Aveo. but I had a Benz S-Class. You get a Chevy Aveo. I had a minivan. How many kids do you have? 2. You get a Malibu. I mean, right? We only owe for basic transportation. And here's the kicker. The adjuster then says, that's Washington law.
Yes. But isn't that insurance fraud?
It's an adjuster should not be tacking on that extra little salt, lemon in the wound, right?
But it makes them more believable, though.
Yes, and it's what they are trained, and that's what they're trained. Especially adjusters who have to work claims in a number of states. They believe that their claims manuals are based on the differences between the laws in state to state. when really the claims manuals are the insurance company's interpretation of the laws combined with the risk management of, can we get away with this interpretation?
Mm-hmm.
When a lot of these issues are debatable.
Uh-huh.
Like, there is a position in Washington law, you can interpret it to say we only owe basic transportation. That interpretation is out there. There's also the other interpretation, where if you lose the use of a Porsche, you're owed the value of Porsche. Same with a Tesla, so forth. So that isn't firm, but adjusters will tell people that's set in stone. It's
Right.
written on a tablet, like the Ten Commandments.
Yep.
That's Washington law.
Yeah.
And again, so, you know, to dispute that is, they save the money because it's almost impossible to dispute that. You can, the vehicle owner can go out of pocket for the upgrade and then what, file a small claims lawsuit for the difference, hoping to get the money back, but risking not getting the money back. And best case scenario is they've made a no interest, indefinite period, unsecured loan. So they're probably not going to do the upgrade just because they believe they deserve it. And if they take the Chevy Malibu because they're told they have to, and people do this and then hire us, and then we bring claims on really high-end cars, the defense attorney will say, well, didn't you accept the Chevy Malibu?
Right.
Yeah, because you told me I had to.
Yeah.
I fought you like crazy about how that was unfair, and now you're telling me that I asked for it? Really? So that one's brutal. So how about now here's one that you probably don't encounter that often, but we encounter all the time. We think you're 10% at fault.
Oh.
You might not encounter it a lot because it happens the most for people who don't have collision coverage. If you just have liability coverage, there's nothing stopping the other driver's insurance company from saying you're 10% at fault. Yes, our driver ran the red light, but you could have hit the brakes in time.
Uh-huh.
What does that 10% do? It's like a deductible for the property damage claim from the other driver's insurance company. $5,000 in damage, all of a sudden the vehicle owner is going to have to go $500 out of pocket to get the car fixed. But the whole part of the reason they didn't buy collision coverage in the first place is because they don't have the money for the deductible and they don't have the money for the collision coverage. So what does that encourage? That encourages just like with that drive-in circumstance, it encourages the vehicle owner to take the check for 90% of the visible damage before the car gets taken apart and then just move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saves the insurance company gobs of money on whatever supplement there would be if the repairs started. And all they have to do is make up the silliest excuse for why somebody's 10% at fault. I call it fault shaving.
You know, it certainly has the appearance of being diabolical in the way claims are handled because of how it affects people. And yet I can remember somebody coming back again in the days of the show that said, yes, but you actually need the insurance companies to do that. It's like survival of the fittest in reverse, I suppose, because if they don't do that, then rates will go up. I mean, if they pay every single claim, every dime that's owed on every claim, then insurance would be a lot more expensive.
And the economy would probably be better off for it overall.
Mm-hmm.
In the entire purpose of insurance is to avoid what are called externalities. So if there was no such thing as insurance, if your house burned down, all of that problem would be in your lap. And that would have consequences on the dry cleaner that you use, on the grocery store where you shop, on your neighbors that you have to borrow from, on your family. So insurance was created so that everybody put in money, all of the country, all the world at this point. Everybody puts in money so that if a casualty happens, if bad luck happens, the consequences don't disproportionately affect the person it happens to.
Right.
It just gets spread evenly.
Right.
And the more evenly things get spread, the less those externalities land on one person's lap, the better the overall economy is. And avoiding externalities is a big topic in macroeconomics. If you just take, macroeconomics 101 in college, that's one of the things that economists really try to avoid are externalities, because they reduce the overall efficiency of an economy. So yes, premiums might go up, but the affordability of everything else would go up too.
That was another very interesting evening with Paul. I'm so appreciative that there are people out there that are givers that will just reach out, try to help, provide good, solid information, and they know what they're talking about. Paul's just a great attorney, and I just want to give my thanks, and I know from our listeners, they certainly appreciate the information Paul's given to us. So with that, stay safe, wear your mask, keep your distance, stay safe, and we'll see you same time, same place next week. This has been Crash Talk.